Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So recently I started watching the Boruto anime trying to catch up on it. I haven't gone that far in, but I am somewhere around episode 15 and deep enough to know that the first major mystery and challenge for Boruto's generation is caused by a man they mercifully never met. Danzo Shimura. I cannot tell you guys how annoyed I was when Danzo was revealed to be involved in yet another questionable "it's for the good of Konoha" plan that once again threatened Konoha's very existence. It is crazy that years after Danzo's death at the hands of Sasuke, he still continues to be the gift that keeps on giving. So I decided to do a video dedicated to analyzing Danzo and why he was, in my opinion, Konoha's most dangerous, most irritating, and annoying enemy ever. Shank. Shank again. Yeah, run, you pathetic piece of. Normally, I would start with analyzing all of Danzo's actions, their far-reaching consequences, and how they ultimately led to a major calamity the Leaf had to deal with. I would then go ahead to show you how this tied into a true aspect of Danzo's despicable character and how it contradicts his "I did it for Konoha" excuses. But not today. Today, I am here to tell you that Danzo was a cowardly, power-drunk, power-hungry, treacherous, selfish, and self-serving douchebag, and a sorry excuse for a shinobi. And believe me, if you are new to Naruto or Boruto, nothing I have said is false. This is the truth and nothing but the truth. You'll even find it in the databook, but you just have to have the Mangekyo Sharingan to see it. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's look at Danzo's life and actions. As I stated earlier, Danzo's full name is Danzo Shimura, meaning he is from the Shimura clan, which was one of the first clans to join the Senju and Uchiha clans after the formation of Konoha in the Land of Fire. We can assume that Danzo had a fairly normal shinobi life up until the First Great Shinobi War. It had been implied that he considered Hiruzen his rival and the person he wanted to surpass, much like Naruto and Sasuke or Obito and Kakashi. However, those were two-way rivalries, with each party admitting they wanted to surpass the other and being pushed by the other. That wasn't Danzo and Hiruzen. Danzo was like that friend that is secretly in competition with someone else, and that someone else has no clue about it. But I digress. During the First Great Shinobi War, Danzo had worked his way up into being part of Tobirama's Hokage Guard, which is admittedly an impressive feat and a testament to his skill as a shinobi. However, when Kumogakure's Kinkaku force was closing in on them and a sacrificial decoy was needed from the group, Danzo hesitated, showing glimpses of the fear of death and envy that would haunt him for the rest of his shinobi life. That was a major turning point. Hiruzen was named Hokage by Tobirama that day, denying Danzo the position he had long sought after. Thus began Danzo's nosedive into darkness as he plotted to become the Hokage of Konoha by any means necessary. Are you prepared to be annoyed? Listen in. Danzo was the mastermind behind the villainization of the Akatsuki by framing them for the murder of Iwagakure Shinobi in Amegakure, thereby making their claims to be a group for peace hypocritical, particularly in the eyes of Hanzo the Salamander, a man you don't want as your enemy. Not only did Danzo orchestrate the death of Yahiko in the Akatsuki, because he perpetrated the lie that Iwagakure Shinobi had been killed, this extended the war between Konoha and Iwa. Danzo somehow claims that stopping the war was a sign of weakness for Konoha and would have been an insult to those who gave up their lives in the war. This is essentially barbecued bullcrap served on a gold plate. First of all, continuing a war does not strengthen anybody. Why? War is a resource-guzzling activity with an insatiable appetite. Everything is spent on war. Money, food, relief supplies, natural resources, human life. The constant expenditure of all these things does not serve to strengthen a nation. Secondly, it is more insulting to extend the war and continue the needless loss of life, which completely negates the sacrifice of noble shinobi who gave up their lives so others wouldn't have to. The real reason Danzo wanted the war to continue was because he knew it would in fact weaken Konoha, and in that resultant weakness, only one person would be blamed: the active Hokage. Who was the active Hokage at the time? Hiruzen Sarutobi. Danzo's rival, at least in Danzo's eyes. Do you see how self-serving this character really was? But beyond his selfish reasons, let's look at how this one action generated seismic shockwaves that would affect the shinobi world up to 2 decades later. Because of Danzo's actions, Yahiko, the original leader of the Akatsuki, was killed, leaving Nagato and Conan broken, and sending Nagato spiraling into his pain persona that would ultimately be responsible for the deaths of Hanzo and Jiraiya and the destruction of Konoha during the pain arc. Additionally, Nagato and Conan's fragile mental state following Yahiko's death would be taken advantage of by Obito, who would go on to lead the Akatsuki, now truly a villainous group, on the hunting down and gathering of the 9 Biju, and sowing the seeds for the fourth great shinobi war more than 2 decades before it happened. Before I go on, I want you to realize that this is just one of Danzo's actions. 1. Danzo also teamed up with Orochimaru, using his position as the head of Roots to give the Twisted Sannin a steady supply of innocent Konoha citizens and shinobi for his gruesome experiments, all in the name of Konoha. These experiments led to Orochimaru successfully developing a jutsu that grants him immortality, the cursed seals, and the development of fearsome shinobi like the Sound Four, who aided in the Konoha Crush arc and the battle with Orochimaru that cost Hiruzen Sarutobi his life. All in the interest of Konoha, of course. Not really. Danzo was interested in Orochimaru's experiments because of the potential and, over the time, eventual benefits they had for Danzo. Based on Orochimaru's experiments, Danzo had his right arm surgically replaced with Shin Uchiha's arm, which was cultivated from Hashirama cells, essentially giving him all the benefits we know a shinobi can get from getting infused with Hashirama cells. Not only that, Danzo believed Orochimaru was under his control, which is why he nominated him for the position of Hokage against Hiruzen's nomination of Minato. If Orochimaru had become Hokage, it would essentially be the same as Danzo becoming Hokage. When Orochimaru escaped and Danzo realized he really couldn't control him, that's when he branded Orochimaru as a threat to Konoha. After destroying so many lives by abducting innocent shinobi and citizens alike for Orochimaru's experiments, Danzo was chiefly responsible for recruiting, training, and eventually breaking the mind of Kabuto, who, stripped of any sense of self, became the ultimate spy and a ticking time bomb that would eventually play into the hands of Obito, coming in handy to essentially provide him an undead army comprised of history's most powerful shinobi. Another seed sown in the budding reality that was the fourth great shinobi war. This one mishandling by Danzo nearly spelled the end of the planet as we know it. The undoing of Kabuto's reanimation jutsu was crucial to winning that war, and we have Itachi to thank for it. Speaking of Uchiha Itachi, let's talk about the Uchiha Massacre. This massacre did not need to happen. The fact that it did was due to Danzo's extreme detest of the Uchiha and his obsession with the Sharingan. While there was unrest within the Uchiha and growing whispers of a coup, Konoha had the good fortune of two formidable and influential Uchiha, Itachi and Shisui, who were against the coup, and the Uchiha leader Fugaku, who was hesitant to spill unnecessary blood. Even though communication between the Uchiha and Konoha's leadership had broken down, Shisui still offered to use Kotoa Matsukami, a genjutsu regarded as one of the most powerful and most subtle, on his clan members. Problem solved. Kotoa Matsukami is so subtle that those caught in it have no clue they're in a genjutsu and still feel like they're doing things of their own free will. Not for Danzo though. Our Konoha-loving shinobi decided it was a great idea to pluck Shisui's eye out, rendering that peaceful plan useless and leaving no other option than the massacre carried out by Itachi. For the good of Konoha! It should be clear by now that Danzo's action here served no other purpose but his own. Shisui's eyes were especially powerful, even for an Uchiha, and Danzo wanted them. How does gaining access to Shisui's eyes help Konoha? Shisui was a Konoha nin, vocally and visibly loyal to the cause. His dojutsu powers were used for the benefit of Konoha already. The only benefit of Danzo acquiring Shisui's powers was simply that. It made Danzo more powerful and potentially gave him more confidence in the idea of overthrowing Hiruzen and becoming Hokage himself. Acquiring Shisui's eyes was not the only benefit to Danzo though. Where do you think all those eyes on his Hashirama-infused arms came from? But that's not all. Let's talk about the consequences of the Uchiha Massacre. Not only did the Leaf lose two valuable and exceptional shinobi in Shisui, who offed himself, and Itachi, who had no choice but to flee the village as a rogue and a villain, but the Akatsuki gained the exceptional skills of Itachi, and it was put to good use gathering all the Biju around the world. Furthermore, Konoha lost the Uchiha clan. Think what you will of them, that is a formidable clan to have as an ally, and losing them left the village all the more vulnerable. Furthermore, the Avenger Sasuke Uchiha was born, and for a long time would go on to cause a lot of grief to Konoha due to his actions after defecting to Orochimaru, and particularly after overpowering Orochimaru. I suppose you can say this was also when Danzo's punishment or justice for Danzo was created, but we'll get to that in a bit. Finally, years after Danzo's demise, we discover that he devised plans for a shinobi to go into a contract with an animal from another world or dimension entirely and not native to Earth. In this case, it was a hybrid feline serpentine monster named Nue, who can be reached via a seal called the Gezoteno, and whose chakra paths can extend outside of its body, engulfing targets and feeding on their chakra using their negative emotions as conduits. But that's not what makes Nue so terrifying. Nue is an actual monster who, at his largest, has a comparable size to one of the tailed beasts and a similarly destructive ability. Beyond that, Nue is a bomb who can be set off by the wielder at any time on a target village. Because of Nue's unique chakra and his existence outside the dimensions naturally connected with Earth, Nue can be carried to a target completely undetected via the Gezateno until he is summoned. At that point, it would be too late. Well, how does this make Danzo terrible? Shinobi create terrifying weapons all the time. I'll tell you. What made this one of Danzo's crimes has less to do with the creation of the weapon and more to do with its nature and the nature of Root, the organization Danzo founded and led up until his death. Danzo drew a sharp divide in terms of loyalty to him and ultimately Root, and loyalty to the Hokage and ultimately Konoha. This is always a dangerous setup to have, as especially misguided shinobi like Tanuki Shigaraki, who developed the Gezoteno, could view actions that went against Danzo as a betrayal to his community, Root. This is ultimately what happened and led to Konoha nearly being destroyed under the leadership of the 7th Hokage, Naruto. Yes, Danzo has been giving the Hokage a lot of grief since Hiruzen Sarutobi, at least, and he continues to find ways to put Konoha in danger long after his death. Speaking of his death, this was one of the more positive benefits of the evil Sasuke. Sasuke, as he was then, was a direct product of Danzo's evil machinations, and it only served for poetic justice that the man who orchestrated the massacre of the Uchiha clan died by an Uchiha, and died the way he did. Danzo died as he had lived his entire life, running from death, completely terrified by it. At the end, he made one last Danzo-like move in trying to drag down his vanquisher Sasuke and Sasuke's ally Obito with him, proclaiming he was doing so for the Leaf. Perhaps that was the only time in his life he was being honest. What do you think of Danzo Shimura as a character and as a shinobi? Did you think he was a viable asset to the Leaf, or did you consider him to be the thorn in chief at the side of each and every Hokage of Konoha after Tobirama? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and we can as usual discuss it. If you liked this video, don't hesitate to smash the like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel. Also, don't forget to hit the bell button so you are notified once I post another video. Finally, you can follow me on these social media platforms. Until next time, Jana.